गाइस, नमस्ते। स्वागत है आपका मेरे चैनल पे। और आज हम कुछ हॉन्टिंग स्टोरीज को रीड करेंगे और मैं उम्मीद करता हूँ कि आपको ये पसंद आएगा। सॉरी मैं आजकल इतनी वीडियोस नहीं बना पा रहा बिकॉज लाइट बहुत ही रहती है हमारे इलाके में। सो या फॉरगिव मी। और आज इसमें से मैं एक स्टोरी पढ़ूँगा। जिस स्टोरी को मैं आज पढ़ूंगा उसका नाम है द बैग ऑफ घोस्ट्स। इट वुड बी इन इंग्लिश। This is a story that I will be reading. So let's go. Many years ago, a barber and his wife lived in a small town in the Indian province of Bengal. He was a quiet, friendly, popular man, but he was always short of money and often neither he nor his wife had enough to eat. यानी एक नाई रहता था बंगाल में बहुत पहले। शांत था, दोस्ताना था, पर हमेशा गरीब। There was no shortage of beards to trim, but the barber was so kind-hearted that time and time again he refused money for his services. पैसे नहीं लेता था. He was often moved to tears by the hard luck stories that his customers had told him, and they, quick to take advantage of his kindness, invented more and more heartbreaking stories to avoid paying for their haircuts. The barber accepted his poverty as the price he had to pay for helping those less fortunate than himself. But not so his wife. She called him foolish, selfish, and a weakling, and complained bitterly both night and day. तो गांव में वो कह रहा है कि दाढ़ियाँ तो बहुत थी काटने के लिए, लेकिन लोग हमेशा कोई ना कोई भावुक कहानी उसे बता के उससे मुफ्त में अपनी शेविंग करवा लिया करते थे, जिससे उसकी बीवी बड़ी नाराज़ थी और उसको बुज़दिल और कमज़ोर कहती थी. Why did you marry me if you are unable to support me? She whined. There was always enough to eat when I lived with my father, but life with you is one long fast. But, wife, we have our health, said the barber, and we must be grateful for that. The wife of one of my customers has lost both her legs. Think of that. And your wife has lost her temper. Think of that. The children of another customer are dying from a terrible wasting disease, added the barber, tears starting from his eyes. And your wife is wasting too, said his wife. I hope that will bring tears to your eyes. Don't you know that only widows fast? When I married you, I didn't think I would have to become a widow in your lifetime, but that is just what I am doing with so much fasting. क्या बात है? One day, the barber returned home with no money at all. He tried to explain to his wife how moved he had been listening to the anguished tales of his customers' trouble, but she would not listen. You don't deserve to have a wife, she interrupted. Go away from me and don't come back until you have earned enough money to enable us to live in comfort. She picked up a broom, hit her husband over the head, and drove him out of the house. She threw his bag containing the tools of his trade after him. The barber rubbed his sore head, but told himself that he deserved such harsh treatment. I won't come back until I'm rich, he vowed to himself. With a last wistful look at his house, he picked up his bag and set off on his travels. He trudged from village to village looking for beards to trim, but with very little success. Other barbers were jealous and turned him away from their territory, and when he did find customers, the merest hint of misfortune in their lives was enough to make him refuse to take payment. One night, he found himself at the edge of a thick forest. He knew that it was useless to travel further until daybreak, so he settled down for the night under a tree. He lay there for hours, brooding about his bad luck and racking his brains for an answer to his problems. The barber was so wrapped up in his troubles that he had quite forgotten that ghosts rested at night in forests and that it was dangerous to venture far into them after dark. It so happened that the tree which Baba had chosen to shelter under was the home of a particularly mean and cruel ghost whose chief pleasure was to destroy human beings. When at last the Baba fell asleep, his nose broke down the silence of the night-shrouded forest and disturbed the ghost. It looked down from the topmost branches to see what was making such a raucous noise. On seeing a human under the tree, the ghost was filled with a wicked pleasure. मैं आपको बाकी की कहानी बाद में समझाऊंगा. With a whoosh like a gust of wind, the ghost slid down the tree and confronted the barber with arms outstretched, mouth wide open, and feet spread out like the roots so that it looked like a huge gnarled tree itself. The barber, feeling an eerie presence, woke up with a start. When he saw what he thought was an ugly tree in front of him, which he knew had not been there earlier, he gave a gasp of surprise, and when the tree spoke, he yelped with fright. By the way, guys, this is a tree that they're talking about. Pretty disturbing if you ask me. You are right to be frightened, barber, the ghost said with a snarl, for I'm about to destroy you, slowly, bit by bit, and you need not shout, for nobody will hear you. Although by now he was shaking with fear, his teeth chattering and his scalp pricking as though it were on fire, the barber did not lose control of himself. He thought hard, and a way of outwitting the ghost suddenly came to him. Instead of cringing away when the ghost made a movement toward him, he said boldly, "How glad I am to see you, ghost." The ghost stopped. "Glad to see me?" It roared. "No human has ever been glad to see me. How dare you say such a thing?" Its eyes flashed green with rage. "I dare do such a thing," the barber said confidently, "for a very good reason. I hoped that you would threaten to destroy me when I sat down to rest under your tree." "It's not only a threat," screeched the angry ghost. "I will destroy you." The barber shook his head and sighed. "That is what they all said, but still, they ended up in my bag. You have no idea the number of ghosts I've captured tonight and packed into my bag, and now I'm going to have another." "What are you talking about, you stupid human?" There was a slight note of unease in the ghost's voice. "Do you expect me to believe that you have already captured some ghost?" It tried to reassure itself by giving a horrible, doom-laden laugh. "It's a pity you don't believe me," the barber said. "I had hoped that you would not be troublesome. Just to convince you, would you like to see one of my captives?" The ghost did not reply. It had never met a human being like this and was at loss what to say next. The barber picked up his bag, pretended to open it very carefully, and thrust his hand inside. He rummaged around and withdrew the small mirror he gave his customers to inspect his handiwork. He stood up and placed it in front of the ghost's face. "There," he said, "see for yourself. This is one of the ghosts I've got and put in my bag. Hurry up though, because I mean to put you there too, so that you can keep the others company." The ghost did not realize that it was looking at its own face. It was overcome with terror at the prospect of being confined in the small bag, and filled with awe at the strange human being who had such an unheard of power over ghosts. It fell to the ground in supplication. "Oh, barber, sir, please do not put me in your bag. I will be your servant and do whatever you command. But please do not put me in your bag." The barber frowned and scratched his head, pretending to consider the ghost's plea. "How can I tell whether you are to be trusted?" he asked. "Ghosts are known to be terrible liars and hardly ever keep their promise." I will," cried the ghost. "This is what you say now. But suppose I let you go free and you don't obey my command." "But I will," I will, the ghost repeated. Please give me a chance. Very well, said the barber. I will put you to the test. My first command is that you bring me 1,000 gold pieces. I will do so, the ghost said, eager to get away from this man who spoke with such authority. Wait, commanded the barber, before the ghost could make a move. By tomorrow night you must build a granary at my house and fill it with paddy. He smiled at the thought of so much rice in hers. Why, his wife need not go hungry for a long, long time. Now, fetch me the gold, and if you bring back one piece less than 1,000, into my bag you will go. The ghost bowed low and was off like a hurricane, leaving the barber to resume his rest under the tree. He had barely closed his eye when a rustling told him that the ghost had returned. It placed a large bag in front of him. 1,000 gold pieces, barber, sir, the ghost said, bowing even lower than before. The barber was delighted and decided to return to his wife at once to tell her of the good news. Before leaving the forest, he waved his bag of tools in front of the ghost's nose. Don't forget my second command. No, barber, sir, said the ghost. A granary filled with paddy. By tomorrow, the barber added sternly, and turned his back on the quivering creature. During the barber's absence, his wife had begun to regret her harsh treatment, slowly beginning to feel that the shortage of food was a small price to pay for a husband with such kind heart. Just before dawn, the barber hammered on the door, calling, "Good wife, let me in and see what I have brought for you." She welcomed her husband with cries of joy and tears of remorse. She could hardly believe her eyes when she saw the 1,000 gold coins, and feeling that the barber had obtained them dishonestly, begged him to tell where he had come by so much money. The barber could hardly tell his story for laughing, but bit by bit his wife heard all about the ghost, was afraid of being put in a bag. But wait till you see what the ghost will bring us tomorrow, chuckled the barber. It will be an even greater surprise. Meanwhile, the ghost was waiting for nightfall. Every time it thought of Barber's bag, it gave a shudder and resolved to build the strongest granary ever seen in the province of Bengal. As soon as it was dark, it started to work and carried on all through night. When the building was completed, the ghost labored hour after hour to fill it with bags after bag of paddy. The barber looked through his window, saw the weary ghost toiling away, and rubbed his hand with satisfaction. When it was nearly at the end of its task, the ghost was joined by another, an even more hideous ghost, who entered the granary like an icky blast and surveyed the paddy fields. The first ghost straightened its tired back and saw that the newcomer was its uncle. "Why are you toiling so, nephew ghost?" said the uncle ghost, angry to see a relative forced to work so hard. "You may well ask, Uncle Ghost," it answered, and told the newcomer the full story. The Uncle Ghost gave a horrible laugh that sounded like the death shrieks of 100 devils. "You fool," it bellowed, "you are unworthy to bear the dishonorable name of a ghost. Can't you see that the barber is a cunning man and has tricked you? How could he put such a huge and terrifying ghost as you into a small bag? Why didn't you destroy him at once, instead of allowing yourself to be fooled?" It's all very well talking like that, uncle," said the first ghost. "You are older than I am and much wiser, but if you doubt the barber's ability to bag me, come and see for yourself." Still disbelieving, the uncle ghost followed its nephew out of the granary and up to the barber's house. They peered in through the window. The barber suddenly felt a lowering of the temperature and knew that the ghost was near. He turned his head slightly and saw from the corner of his eye that there were two ghosts with their face pressing against the glass. "Something is amiss," he said to himself. "They're up to something, but they shan't get better of me." Without saying a word to his wife, he picked up his bag and went to the window and opened it. "Ah," he said to the crouching creatures, "another ghost for my collection. You should have obeyed my orders," he said to the nephew ghost. "But there's plenty of room in my bag for your ugly companion." He reached in his bag, took out the mirror, and placed it so that the uncle ghost saw the reflection of its startled face. It shrank away from the window as it heard the barber say, "I shall put you in the bag to keep the other ghosts company." The uncle ghost fell to the ground. "Please, "Don't, Baba, sir," it gasped. "I couldn't bear to be put in such a bag. I'll do anything if you won't shut me up with that awful creature whose face he just showed me. I'll bring you. I'll build you another granary, and I'll fill it with the finest rice. And I'll bring you 2,000 gold pieces. Will you spare me if I do all that?" The barber, inwardly shaking with laughter, pretended to consider. "Very well. Do all that, and you shall go free." The uncle ghost kept his promise as faithfully as its nephew had done. A second granary had appeared next to the first, bulging with sacks of finest rice. A second bag of money, twice as big as the first, was left on Barber's doorstep. Then the two ghosts gratefully took leave of the dreaded master and returned to the forest, where they had spent their time hunting and destroying less wily travelers than the barber. The barber was now a very rich man, and his wife was well contained with such a clever husband who had provided her with an abundance of food and money to buy dresses and jewels. She became very fat and good-natured, and the happy barber spent his day trimming his friend's beard and asking for no payment. तो guys, ये थी स्टोरी एक नाई के बारे में जो गरीब था बड़ा, क्योंकि वो किसी अपने दोस्तों से पैसे नहीं लेता था. उनके दुखदाई कहानी सुन के वो उन पर तरस खाता था. इससे गुस्सा होकर उसकी पत्नी उसे घर से बाहर निकाल देती थी. वो अलग अलग जगह जाता था, अलग अलग गांव में दाढ़ी मूछ साफ करने, लेकिन वहाँ के नाई उन्हें वहाँ पे टिकने नहीं देते थे. फिर एक बार वो एक जंगल में एक पेड़ के नीचे सो गया, ज़ोर ज़ोर से खनाटे लेने लगा. तभी उस पेड़ में जो भूत था वो बाहर आ गया. वो उसको डराने लग गया और कहने लगा कि मैं मारूंगा. लेकिन नाई बड़ा चतुर था. उसने अपने झोले से शीशा निकाला और वो भूत को दिखाया और कहा, "देख, ये एक भूत मेरे झोले में बंद था, ऐसी मैं तुझे भी अपने झोले में बंद कर दूंगा." भूत कहता है कि ऐसा मत करो, मैं तुम जो कहोगे वो करूँगा. और फिर वो करता है. नाई कहता है कि मुझे सोने के सिक्के चाहिए और एक बड़ा सा जगह चाहिए चावल रखने के लिए. तो भूत दोनों काम कर देता है. नाई अपनी बीवी के पास वापस चले आता है और जब जो भूत था वो ग्रेनरी बना रहा होता है जहाँ पे स्टोर करके रखते चावल, तभी उस भूत का चाचा आ जाता है. वो कहता है कि मेरा भतीजा इतनी मेहनत क्यों कर रहा है. तो फिर भतीजा भूत बताता है कि एक आदमी है और उसके पास ताकत है हमें पोटली में बंद करने के लिए, तो इसलिए मैं ये सब कर रहा हूँ. तो वो कहता है कि चाचा कहता है कि तो कहते हैं कि भाई कौन है ये आदमी जो ऐसी बात कर रहा है, मैं उसको मार डालूँगा. तो भतीजा अपने चाचा भूत को नाई के पास ले आता है. नाई फिर से वही ट्रैक करता है, अपने झोले में से एक आईना शीश निकालता है और कहता है कि देख, मैं तेरे को इस भूत की तरह इसमें कैद करूँगा. उस आईने में चाचा अपनी परछाई देखता है और सोचता है कि वाकई में कोई भूत है. और फिर चाचा कहता है कि ठीक है, मुझे जाने दो, मैं तुम्हारे लिए एक और ग्रीनरी बना दूंगा और तुम्हें 2,000 सिक्के दूंगा सोने के. नाई मान जाता है और उसके बाद वो नाई बहुत ही अमीर हो जाता है. उसकी बीवी भी उससे खुश रहती है. वो जो भूत है वो फिर ऐसे लोगों का, उस नाई से कमज़ोर लोगों का शिकार करने लगता है. बट वो नाई खुश होता है और फिर वो हमेशा बाल काटता है लेकिन किसी से पैसे नहीं लेता. तो एनीवे गाइस, ये थी स्टोरी. मुझे उम्मीद है कि आप लोगों को अच्छी लगी होगी. अभी के लिए मैं आप लोगों से आगे जाऊँगा.